Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you. Welcome back to The Goal of the Wise. My name is Ardian al-Mahdi.
I'm Hussam al-Mahdi.
And I'm Jamil al-Ahmadi.
So, on the previous episode, and before we get into the previous episode, first let's actually pull up the QR code for The Goal of the Wise, so this way you guys can join us in the reading of The Goal of the Wise and comprehending The Goal of the Wise, and also reading it on your leisure time and your free time. The book is available in English, Arabic, and in multiple other languages, and many more languages to come as well. But anyway, without further ado, let's actually just dive into this, because I mean, my God, it was such an exciting episode the last time that we talked about this. We talked about how the Qaim comes to basically destroy what we used to think was the correct religion of Islam. He destroys that which comes before him. And we mentioned how he even destroys all of the mosques of the world. Every single one of them. He does not leave a single one standing. To the point that we read up a hadith, and let's post up the screenshot of this narration, where it is narrated by Abi Abdullah, from him is peace, who said that if the Qaim rises, he demolishes the Masjid al-Haram, the mosque complex of Mecca that surrounds and encompasses the Kaaba, until he returns it to its origin and moves the maqam to the place that it was really at. And he cuts off the hands of the Bani Shayba and hangs them at the door of the Kaaba and writes on it, "These are the thieves of the Kaaba." Now back to the camera. So we find here that the Masjid al-Haram by the Mahdi, by the Qaim of the family Muhammad, is destroyed, and he returns it back to its origin. So that's interesting. Like, out of all of the mosques in the world, the Prophet of God, who supposedly performed Hajj there, this mosque now is destroyed. And it's said that it is now brought back and moved back to its origin. What does that tell us? That tells us actually, and that was actually what we wanted to emphasize on and make the people contemplate about, which is that every other mosque in the world gets destroyed but never rebuilt. This mosque gets destroyed and gets rebuilt, but other than the location that it is now standing on.
Yeah.
That basically means that the mosque in Mecca and the Kaaba all are in the wrong place.
Yeah. No, I was going to say...
Yeah, go ahead.
And I was going to say, it's definitely something that the Muslims need to think about, because we mentioned yesterday, this is why it's going to be difficult upon the Arabs. These are sort of idols, or these are sort of, ideologies that they keep very dear to their heart, that they have the sort of Kaaba between their hands, but in actuality they don't. And this is something that we're going to get into today. And we're going to sort of deep dive and explain why the Kaaba is going to get destroyed in this day and age, and why, as it says quite graphically, he cuts off the hands of Bani Shayba and hangs it on the door and says, "These are the thieves of the Kaaba," because in effect they've hijacked religion and they're leading people astray. And we see that today with the current custodians of the Kaaba and all that they've done to it. So I think that's the premise for what we're going to get into today.
Yeah, I think the Kaaba's location is one of the topics that are that needs to be discussed, because it is one of the things that are been taken for granted. It's one of these knowledges that, like, it doesn't even cross anybody's mind that, hey, what do you mean the Kaaba is in the wrong location? What are you talking about to begin with? This is the Kaaba that historically we know about it. Our grandfathers and great-grandfathers, they went there to visit. And so what are you talking about when it comes to the Kaaba's location? You're saying that he's going to destroy it so that he can rebuild it somewhere else? So then, technically speaking, for the general Muslim population, this would be something that is very difficult to digest. It's not something very easy to digest. So the idea is that there we have a single evidence right now that we placed on the table for you. It's a hadith, a narration that is authentic, that is saying that the Imam, when the Qaim alayhi salatu wasalam rises, he will put to the ground this Kaaba that you know, and he will rebuild it in where it originally was. So this is number one. I mean, we have lots to talk about today, you know. So yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's a lot that we have to talk about, and one of the things that we can all right now open up with is the words of Abu Sadiq himself in The Goal of the Wise in terms of the reality of the Kaaba, which we just discussed, but it's also best to hear it from him himself. Let's play the next clip.
The reality of the Kaaba. Imam Ahmad al-Hassan, from him is peace, said, "The house of the Kaaba that people know is not the real Kaaba. The real Kaaba has been completely destroyed. There used to be in Mecca 22 Kaabas. There were also Kaabas in Jordan, Iraq, Sudan, and Egypt. Every large tribe would build a Kaaba that their people would make a pilgrimage to. I asked the Imam, from him is peace, what is this current Kaaba then? Imam Ahmad al-Hassan, from him is peace, said, this current Kaaba that everyone knows belongs to Quraysh, but this is not even its real place. The original Kaaba of Quraysh was demolished, and this is a new Kaaba that they recently built. I asked, so where is the real Kaaba of God? Imam Ahmad al-Hassan, from him is peace, said, do you mean the true Kaaba, the one that Abraham, peace be upon him, built? I said, yes, and the one that Muhammad, peace be upon him and his family circled. Imam Ahmad al-Hassan, from him is peace, said, the truth is that Abraham, peace be upon him, didn't actually build the Kaaba, but rather he reconstructed it. But now there is no longer a trace of it. As for Muhammad, peace be upon him and his family, he circled a different Kaaba that belonged to his tribe, the Bani Hashim. That one too has been completely destroyed. I asked, was the one that belonged to Bani Hashim in the same place as the current one that belongs to Quraysh? Imam Ahmad al-Hassan, from him is peace, said, no, the real Kaaba is located in Al-Sham, Levant, and not in Al-Hijaz, and particularly in Jordan. Most of our entire history is a lie, son. Most of it has been forged. The Imam, from him is peace, further clarified that the exact location of the true original Kaaba is Petra, Jordan.
Okay, well, we see here that, I think that's a big revelation for the people now that, not only is the Kaaba located in Mecca today, not even the real Kaaba, but the actual location of the real Kaaba was actually way up north in the country today known as Jordan, in the city of Petra. I think that is something that, and it is something actually that a lot of Muslims fight us about. They look at us and say, what are you guys talking about? We've known for 1,000 years that the Kaaba that everyone circulates around, that everyone knows that it's so famous for, is one located in present-day Mecca.
Right.
And the people are, quite frankly, attached to that place. For them, that is a symbol of Islam, and to say that the Kaaba is not there or was not originally there is to say that all of Islam is false for the people.
Absolutely, and I think just to give the people the something to think about, there is in the authentic sources of the Sunni sources and the Shia as well. That they mentioned that there were other Kaabas as well at the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The evidence for that, you'd have a Kaaba called the Khusla, which is the one with the bank, hair. It's like one-sided bank. So it's Arabic Khusla means it's something that came down. So you could imagine a Kaaba, the same thing, squared, cubed, and then something is falling, draping from the side of it. It was in Yemen, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, according to authentic sources, he was calling the Muslims to destroy it. He was actually saying, who of you Muslims would get rid of this one for me? And somebody got up and said, I will do it. And then he took about 150 to 300 people with him on horses, and they went over there and they destroyed that Kaaba. So we know that the concept of the Kaaba is not for just the general population, so that you can open your mind a little bit to what's going on here, is that there were other Kaabas that existed at that time. In fact, it's quite a lot. You know?
I mean, the Imam said clearly, he said that even in the city of Mecca by itself, there exists 22 Kaabas.
So there you go. So this is not just a statement of that was made by the Imam. In fact, it's in your books, Shi'as and Sunnis, that is evidenced in authentic sources. So yes, there were other Kaabas. The only difference is now, is this Kaaba the real one? And that's the real question that we have to ask, since there is a possibility, which is that there are other Kaabas at that time. There were Kaabas that existed, and we know the history of Islam is packed full of disagreements, wars, massive wars that caused thousands, if not actually throughout the 1,400-year period, millions of Muslims lost their lives in the battles that happened between the Ottoman empires, between the empires in general of the Muslim population, and hold from the Banu al-Abbas, Banu Umayyah, all these different battles that happened between them throughout the history. This is enough for us to actually question, is this Kaaba in the right location?
Yeah.
No, it's... and I think the one person who can answer that, we went over what the Go of the Wise says, right? By the words of Abu Sadiq that he wrote. Let's see in the next clip also other informations and pieces of information that he has to deliver to us.
The Qaim in the narrations of Muhammad and the family of Muhammad does a lot of interesting things that were mentioned plainly in the narrations, but not talked about so much by the scholars. Something which is hidden. They don't want this stuff out. In the narrations, it states that the Qaim will destroy the Masjid al-Haram. He brings it and destroys it down. And also the masjid and the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the narrations it states that he attacks it and takes an axe to destroy it. And his companions flee from him because of a great storm that takes place. And then they run back to him after they realize that the storm is not the anger of God against the Mahdi. And it says that he rebuilds the Kaaba in the place that it was supposed to be in. So that means that the Kaaba itself, that the Muslims are making pilgrimage to, is not even the correct Kaaba. And when we look further into the narrations of Muhammad and the family of Muhammad, and even narrations of him with his wives, we'll find that he speaks to his wives and he says that, one of his wives, and he says that if he had the ability to, in his life, he would have brought down the Kaaba and reestablished it in its right place. So therefore, the Kaaba that they're visiting today is not the Kaaba that was built by Abraham.
Also, I mean, there you have it. He states very clearly and mentions that there are narrations that talk about how he would have wished to have brought the Kaaba back to its right place. That is incredible. So we actually see from the mouths of the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt, from the Hujjas of God, that the Kaaba that is situated now in Mecca is not in the right place. That the Kaaba is a place that the Imam will destroy in the events of when he goes to Mecca. He will destroy it because it is a house of falsehood. It is not the Kaaba of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he will reconstruct it back in its original place in modern day Petra, Jordan. And my God, it's like, it makes you think to yourself that, wow, all of these people of the Saudi government, all of these people of the royal family of Saud, for sure they must know about this stuff. I mean, how would they not know the soil of their own country and the history of their own country and that which is in the books and the narrations? So basically what they're doing is they're taking the people for a run on their money, taking the people for a run on their economy, and it makes sense now why it is that it is so expensive to perform Hajj, because these people, they don't even believe in God. They don't even believe in hereafter. They are using this as a tourist location, so this way they can grab your money, put it in their pockets, and then move on with their lives. And that makes sense now why the hadiths of the Ahlul Bayt state that the Qaim, when he rises and he destroys the Kaaba and puts it back in its place, he cuts off the hands of the thieves of the Kaaba. Why? Because what that means is that they're stealing money from the people who believe that this is the Kaaba of Allah, and they're basically abusing the followers of Islam.
Yeah, no, for sure. Something I find extremely disgusting, and I can imagine for everyone out there that's like hearing this for the first time, that the Kaaba is not in Mecca, in Saudi Arabia, that it's outrageous for them.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
I know, so when we heard it, it was kind of soothing, because we had already come to a phase where we know that most of what the people believe is corrupted. 99% of Islam is corrupted and false, and that the scholars of the end times are the most evil of people under the sun. So when we heard this and we were presented with the proofs, it was like logical. It makes sense. Question your religion, and people end up calling you crazy kind of scenario, like the hadith say. So I think we've cemented that point that the Kaaba is not in Mecca, and now let's go through some evidences of where it could be, or where we say it is, which is Petra in Jordan. There's multiple verses from the Quran. There's stories and hadiths and events that have taken place that once we present it all to the viewers at home or out there, you really kind of have to be like blinded by your, I guess, lack of faith in the truth, to hold on to this, false Kaaba, especially with what you see in terms of the behavior from the custodians of these two holies, or the Kaaba and the mosque in Medina. So let's get into that.
So I guess the first thing that we can pull up is a slide from the verse Surah As-Saffat, where it mentions, and indeed Lot, Prophet Lot, the one who was obviously situated where the Dead Sea now is located, in modern-day Israel, Palestine, and indeed Lot was among the messengers, so mentioned when we saved him and his family, all except an old woman, his wife, among those who remained with the evildoers. Then we destroyed the others, and indeed you pass them by in the morning and at night. Then will you not reason? So when you actually find the reason for this ayat, or this story to be revealed in the Quran, you'll find, for example, one Sunni scholar by the name of Ibn Kathir, in his tafsir, he mentions that this is obviously pertaining to the people of Mecca, that when they used to do trades, when they would pass by the old place in which Sodom and Gomorrah used to be. But the only way that you could pass it in the morning and the night is if, when you're doing this trade, you are in close proximity to the Dead Sea.
And so on your way, and you're traveling like on the highway, right? There had to be some sort of a main route, trade routes, right? So they must have been able to bypass those, in the morning and in the night. So it doesn't make sense that this situation, that this location, that you will bypass the people of Lot. The people of Lot is where right now recorded history speaks very loudly about the location of this thing, and every scholar that worth their name and salt, like they actually say where the location is of the dead. They say that it is in the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is packed with salt, which is a sign that is mentioned in the Quran. It is the deepest place on the planet, the lowest spot on the face of the earth. It's like over 1,300 meters below sea level. That's quite crazy, actually, and the distance, it's quite crazy too, between the Kaaba, the current so-called Kaaba, and the Dead Sea is quite a long distance. So
for sure,
if you just try to put all these inputs together in front of you on a table, it just won't make sense that this Kaaba is the right location. It just doesn't make any sense.
No, for sure not. I mean, and why would a bunch of people from Mecca, who are extremely rich and powerful, why would they travel all the way up north? And not just up north, because when you're in present-day Mecca, if that's what you imagine the location to be, you would have to travel all the way up north through a horrible desert, through horrible terrain, through horrible weather conditions, just so this way you could pass by Syria and pass by maybe a Jordan, to end up in Levant, or to end up in Lebanon, then hopefully pass through Israel. Now at this moment, you passed by where? You passed by the Dead Sea, you passed by where Lot was, and there's no way that the people went through that length of a distance to go trading only to come back down to the same location, Mecca. I mean, the effort to go through that travel is not something overnight. But if it's in Petra, Jordan, I mean, my God, the countries are pretty much right next to each other.
You know, like literally right next to each other.
Right next to each other.
The location is not even a 30 minutes drive. You know, it's so close by that it's literally right there. So it would make sense then that, hey, you guys pass by them in the morning and in the nights, because we do. You know, I have to go that route, and I'll have to bypass it. You know, like I'll see it every day, and I can see it in the morning, I can see it in the night.
And speaking to and mentioning what you said, because you mentioned the highway or the high road, right? There's actually a surah in the Quran, and we'll play it now on the next slide. In the chapter of the Quran of Surah Al-Hijr, verse number 75 to 77, it says, "Surely in this are signs for those who see or understand or learn the lessons from the signs of Allah. And verily they, the cities, were right and on the high road." And this is talking about Sodom and Gomorrah, because why in brackets it says, "From Mecca to Syria, the place where the Dead Sea is now. Surely then therein is indeed a sign for the believers." So over here, this verse clearly testifies that it's right on the high road. So it's on the high road. It's not multiple roads, because if you take the road from Mecca and try going to the Dead Sea, there's a ton of routes that you have to go through. But if you're in Petra, Jordan, it's a straight road. It's a straight road to the Dead Sea.
I'll just add as well, like there's many obviously different translations of these verses, and if you read through them, there's a lot of them that say the well-known road, like it's a well-known trade route, because this is something that obviously trading is popular in this time. It was a means of an ends, and it was very clear that this must be like a well-known road for it to be something that for people with understanding to know about. Like, oh yeah, we know about this road. This must be talking about this area, because it isn't the road. It's like the high street, basically. Of that region, because that is in that area, and that is also where Lot was. So you're just tying the two together. So it's very illogical and impractical that it would be Mecca or Saudi Arabia. It must be another sort of location and city, right?
Yeah, for sure. The distance between the current Mecca and the Dead Sea is over 1,350 kilometers. So you're having to travel from a couple of months minimum. What's the speed of a caravan made of camels and horses, right? That going through the desert. Of course, it's not going to be that fast. So they'll need rest. They'll need healing. They'll need food, they'll need water, so they'll have to stop all the time. So to travel from Mecca to the Dead Sea, it would be one of two things. We're left with two options. Either the Quran is corrupt about this, so this is one option, right? So you gotta pick, either the Quran is corrupt, because it's saying you guys pass by them in the morning and the nights, and that doesn't make any sense historically and like geographically, true. Unless they had Formula One camels, which I'm not sure they did at that time. That technology didn't exist. So the idea is that unless this is the case, the Quran is corrupt in this, or the Quran is right in this, and the location of the Kaaba is corrupt.
Exactly.
So when your scholars have hid something from you which you don't know. And is it possible they do that? Of course it's possible. History is packed with the scholars lying to their people. They lied at Jesus before you. They lied at Muhammad before you. They lied at Moses before you. They lied at Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. They lied at all the prophets and the messengers. The scholars were the face of the lies. They were the fathers of the lies. They were the mothers of the lies. They're the tribe of liars. This is where they come from. They come from their father Satan, who actually is the first liar. He says, "I am better than Adam." How do you know? That's a lie. God says, "Prostrate, therefore you must be not better than Adam," right? At least in a sense, So the idea is that this lie, again, one of two options. Either the Quran is corrupt about this, up to you. Choose what dawah.
Pick your poison.
Exactly, pick your poison. Quran is corrupt, or that the geographic location of the Kaaba is corrupt, therefore your scholars are liars. That's up to you. So the idea is, one more thing I would like to add to this situation is that say for the sake of argument, the location of the Kaaba, we were told historically that it is a very heavily trade routed, like it's in the center of the trade routes. It is the major city that is right there for all the routes from Asia on the east, so, or like from Africa on the other side, or from the north from Europe, or the south from, again, like that area.
It's funny that we're mentioning trade here, right? Because the one thing that people used to say back in the day, which now we understand, my God, they were so right, which is that there is not a... Look, the Muslims, they propagate something which is true, but mixed with some falsehood, right? Which is that Mecca was a city known to be the center of trade, like kind of like the World Trade Center. Everybody knows what New York is. Everyone knows, oh my God, okay, there's Wall Street there. There's the World Trade Center. This is a place that if you want to do trading, if you want to get rich, okay, well, New York might be the best place to really go to in this day and age, right? At that time, for them, it was Petra. I mean, for them at that time, it was Mecca, right? But I'm just calling it Mecca for now. But, just to kind of give the impression that, like if Mecca present day was an ancient Mecca that we are talking about, then there must be evidence historically that that place must have been a place of many riches where people wanted to go and do trades. But funny enough, we find that pre-Islam, every single ancient map of the ancient world, they had Athens, they had Rome, they had all of these countries and all of these cities, known cities. But the one city that, according to Islam, is supposed to be a very well-known city of all ancient worlds, from China, that people used to go take the Silk Road from China to go all the way to Mecca to do trading. People from the Romans and the Egyptians and the Libyans and the Berbers and the Greeks and all these guys came to Mecca, so this way they can do trading. But there is not a single map out there that ever shows Saudi Arabia with a destination point called Mecca, saying, hey, this is the center of trade in the world, guys. Not a single map. And not even a single empire, because you would think, right, every other empire in the world that was bent on conquering a territory, whether it was for greed or because they wanted natural resources from that area, you do not find any ancient empire from the great great Roman Empire, which expanded from all of Europe and North Africa and parts of the Middle East, but they never ever decided to go to the Arabian Peninsula. Never once did they ever think to themselves, hey, it should make the people think. The Romans, they loved gold. Their economy was a gold-based economy. They loved trade. They loved knowledge. Why didn't they go down south to that one great trade route? Because it never existed.
They definitely did not add it in their maps for that reason. Kaaba was not over there in Mecca right now.
Of course not.
It just didn't exist at that time.
And also, not
existed, it's a small town of the Banu Umayyad, as we know. So the idea is that the idea is very simple, right? It's just to think about it in a geographic term, right? Like, okay, put the map of the Middle East right there, right in front of your eyes, or I'll give you a minute here, maybe. If you're watching us live, I'll give you as I'm talking. Hopefully, you get fast enough. You take out your phone and you start go Google Map. Go to Google Map and go to that area and think for a second that we're told by the scholars, and they convince us that Kaaba was the center of trade. Now use your logic and reason and pinpoint for me what is a location that could be the best location geographically for the trades between Asia North, which is Europe, and then Africa. You just pinpoint between where would it be? And you cannot escape the geographic amazing location of the Petra. You just can't. It's literally at the intersection of going north and going to the east and going to the south, going to the west. So you'll find and south as well. So the location of the Petra is actually the most optimum location that exists on the face of that map, that could actually be a trade route, a city that could flourish in route and in trade. made. And in fact, historically speaking, Petra was known for that. Historically speaking, it was you see it, go check it out. Check out the videos of the Petra. They had aqueducts. They had like lots of Roman presence, which also mentioned in the Quran that they were Romans at that time, right?
Yeah.
So you have archetypes that are like architects that actually prove that this location was a trade hub. It was actually the trade hub of the entire town.
And it was also a place of many gods.
Yeah.
So, you know, Mecca, there's no historic archaeological findings of many idols.
Yeah.
You don't find that there at all. You don't find many vegetations. It's just desert.
Yeah.
Nothing but desert, actually. But we find that in Petra, they would find statues of Greek gods. They would find statues of the Arab gods like Allat and Manat and Al-Uzza and Hubal. And they would find gods from other cultures and other religions like the Egyptians and the Greeks and the Romans. And even a combination of the Greeks and the Romans whenever they would fuse like Jupiter and Zeus, for example, or Osiris and Zeus and what have you. But we don't find that in modern day Mecca. There's no archaeological finding or evidence for that. And also we find a verse in the Quran which I think is absolutely fascinating because we all know that Abraham and Ismail, they were the ones who built the Kaaba, right? But we're saying that the Kaaba that was built was obviously in Petra, right? In Jordan or the Levant area, right? What do we see that Abraham says? Abraham says to his Lord, he says in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 126, if we could pull it up. Abraham said, "My Lord, make this a secure city and provide its people with fruits. Whoever of them believes in Allah and the last day." And Allah said, "And whoever disbelieves, I will grant him enjoyment for a little, then I will force him to the punishment of the fire, and wretched is the destination." Today, actually, if you were to go to Petra, you would find that there are trees of all sorts of different kinds of tasty, delicious looking fruits that are edible that you do not find in Mecca. There's not even any findings of olives or roots of previous trees that indicate that, hey, this tree once at one time grew apples or oranges or a fig tree or an olive tree. But all of these different varieties of trees of all different varieties of fruits are only found in Petra, because obviously God is not going to like hear Abraham's du'as, his supplication, and not answer him, and especially not put like a du'a that was never answered in the Quran. It wouldn't make sense.
Exactly.
But this is a huge proof that this location was a location which had plenty, as you were saying, and as you were saying, that this was a rich location. They had everything that they could possibly want. People from China were talking about it. People from the Greeks and the Romans were talking about it. People from the Berbers and the Egyptians used to go there to worship their gods and to enjoy life there. And that's why it says over here, "And I'll grant them enjoyment for a little bit." They were enjoying their time there, whether they were worshiping one god or multiple gods. It was a paradise on earth for those people at that time.
Yeah, for sure.
I was going to say, I think it's very clear then from these three verses that it's impractical so far that this area that Mecca could be in Saudi Arabia, that the Holy Kaaba could be in Saudi Arabia. And just before we sort of move on to the next topic, we have, you mentioned about idols, right? And there's a hadith here that I just want to bring up on screen that talks about, a reformed idol worshipper that, was given dawah by Prophet Muhammad and became a Muslim and then went and converted his wife. So I'll just quickly read it and we'll get into that. So it's just another proof. So it says, "Now Idul Shahara was an image belonging to Daus, and the Himma was a temenos which they had made sacred to him. In it there was a trickle of water from a rivulet from the mountain. She asked me urgently," meaning Al-Tufail, the person that converted to Islam, "have you any fear from Idul Shahara on my account or on the children's account?" He said, "No, I will go surely for that." And then he said, "I will go surely for that." So she went and washed, and when she returned, I explained Islam to her, and she became a Muslim. So this is sort of a beautiful hadith that speaks about the dawah of Prophet Muhammad and how he came and converted people that were idol worshippers in this time. And if you sort of know the story of Prophet Muhammad, he's around the Kaaba at that time, in the early foundings of Islam. So for this believer early believer in Prophet Muhammad to to hear the dawah of Prophet Muhammad and then go back to his wife and obviously go to this temple, temple with idol worship going on. It wouldn't make sense that it's somewhere far away, that he goes all the way from Petra, because this is where this temple is. This temple is located in Petra. So it would mean, just like we spoke about the trade routes, that this Al Tufail would have to go all the way from Petra all the way to Saudi Arabia on a regular basis, just to speak to Prophet Muhammad or be around Prophet Muhammad, and then have to go back and forward to worship his idol. Yeah. So unless he is around Muhammad in Petra, where also we find a lot of archaeological evidences for idol worships, old temples, and these kind of proofs that this area was rich with that, not only just trade routes, but rich with idols and idol worshippers and temples and all the rest of it. So it stands to reason that this is another proof that is written in a very well-known hadith that say that this is area in Petra, not in Saudi Arabia, because you don't find these archaeological evidences or historical evidences in Saudi Arabia. That is present for us today to sort of build the case that Saudi Arabia was the house of Mecca in that time.
Yeah. For sure. So I think that's one of the things. So just to say something, one of the arguments that the Muslims can put on the table for us against this, that the location of the Kaaba today is the true location, is this Zamzam water. Yeah. We hear that all the time on TikTok. We hear that as we talk to people in person. They say, but what about Zamzam water? There is like scientists who have done tests on the Zamzam water, and it has double helix, cells, and it's intense, and it's healing, and it's that, and it's property, and people sell it online. People sell it. You can buy it. You can actually get it delivered to your house, which kind of automatically puts the red flags on it. It's like, if there is a business, there is a scam. You can easily imagine that. If they scammed us with the location of the Kaaba so that they can make money out of the Hajj, then for sure they would scam you with the water too.
It's part of their business.
Exactly, it's a part of the business scam. What they would do. If Saudi Arabia was to tell me, the government would to tell me the sun is the sun, I would say maybe that's not the truth. I don't know. I would doubt everything they say to me, because their credibility is not really that high. So when it comes to the Zamzam water, it's it just doesn't make any sense.
Not at all.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes. So we've got the screenshot of it.
Yes.
That's not a screenshot of the Zamzam water, but it's this fact that you have this manufactured water pumping system that is keeping the Zamzam myth alive. Yes. If you look into it today, you'll see that the Saudi governmental agencies, these people, that the governing bodies of the Zamzam water and the Saudi government itself, are looking into ways to sustain the production of this water and to keep it flowing enough so that it doesn't run out, because of obviously the increase in pilgrims every year. So they're sort of worried about it, and this doesn't tie into what we know about Zamzam water, because Zamzam literally means like stop, right? From where Hajj was with Ismail and was running back 7 times between these two mountains, Safa and Marwa. And then she was desperate. Angel Gabriel came to her and obviously made this spring of water that is, a miracle that never ends and is pure, etc., etc. So why is it then that the Saudi government need to purify it? They need to, keep it flowing because they're worried that it's going to run out. This doesn't really tie into the miracle that we have, that we know about.
No, for sure. And also something that's very interesting, right? Concerning the well in Mecca, because that's exactly what we hear on TikTok, right? Well, then how do you explain the Zamzam water? I mean, it's very easy, dude. It's like if you go to a new location and you need water, or you need a place to store water. Well, all you have to do is very simple. Dig a well. Yeah. You dig a well, you make sure that the foundation is made, and then you add water into it, and make sure that you keep on refilling it. When it rains, and like if you have people, you could have people get water from other places that might be able to store water, and then you store it in your country, or you store it in your city. If there is not enough rain supply. And actually, in history, we've found that there have been historic accounts of the Zamzam well having dried up sometimes, where people were not having access to water, and including the time of one of the caliphs, Harun Rashid, who his wife gave money in order to that the Muslims take the well of Zamzam and make a bigger hole for it and dig deeper to make sure that there be more water access for the well of Zamzam, that there basically be more a surplus of water supply from that well. So no, it is not a miraculous well.
Exactly.
Historically speaking, it is a well that fills up with water naturally as any other well would. So maybe some people might be saying, okay, well, we don't find something like the example of Zamzam in Petra today. So like, what are you guys talking about? Well, actually, according to the narrations that we find from historians in Islam concerning Mecca, is that before the advent of Prophet Muhammad, the Zamzam well used to be built up of debris. So because of this debris, the water would no longer come out, the water would no longer come forward. So then what they would have to do is they would have to dig out that debris in order for the water to reflow back again. So we see that again happening where the Muslims have associated Mecca with the beautiful sayings and tales of the Saudi government and the scholars concerning that. And another thing before we move on, before I let you guys speak, is one thing that I have to point out because it boggles my mind how the people really don't know the difference between a small little silly hill and a mountain. What is called Safa and Marwa today, in the Quran it's described as a mountain. It's described as a mountain, and the hadiths make it out as if it's very long travel to go in between Safa and Marwa. It's very tiring, and the mountains are huge. But when you go to Mecca and you perform Hajj, anybody who did Hajj and Umrah, I'm pretty sure all of you can vouch and say it's pretty much a small hill. It does not need that big of a climb to climb this mountain. It is just a small little hill with no significance except that it's just two big looking rocks that people touch and then make a few laps here and there. So where are the mountains? We only see that the two mountains, or the mountains that look like actual mountains, is actually in Petra.
Exactly that. And I mean, obviously we're running out of time, but there's so much to talk about on this topic.
It is a lot to talk about.
I think we've presented a lot of very concrete and evidence that should really make you question the Kaaba. We mentioned it yesterday how they've taken it into this idea of like religious tourism. So I just want to bring up that hadith. I mentioned it the other day, but I actually want to read it today in its entirety. It's very short actually, and just paint that picture to show you that actually, and then bring up some slides of the Kaaba to show you what the Kaaba they have between their hands is today. And you can ask yourself the question: do you think that this is the Kaaba that Prophet Muhammad would be proud of? Do you think this is the Kaaba that you should be proud of? Do you think that this Kaaba represents Islam, or do you think this represents some money-making business, just how we mentioned Zamzam water does? So let's bring up that next slide, and I'll just quickly read it for you. It says, the time will come when the rich will perform Hajj for leisure, the middle class will perform Hajj for trade, the scholars will perform Hajj for showing off, and the poor will perform Hajj for begging. And this is obviously a well-known hadith. It's from Prophet Muhammad, and I mean, it's extremely clear. If we can just bring up the next slides, just to really paint that picture of what Hajj is today and what the buildings around Hajj look like, just for the viewers there. I mean, look at it.
We have a huge clock tower. We have all sorts of buildings around.
Can you even see the Kaaba in half of these images?
No, man. It's like you can actually go up to these buildings and look down on God.
Exactly. That's what I feel like these custodians of the Kaaba are doing.
This is a business. It's obviously a business. We can see that. You can see all the investments that they put in it, so that they can get like 5-star hotels right around it, so that you can go up there in the morning with your coffee and your expensive leisure. You're just watching it luxuriously as God is being circled around beneath your feet, So it's like it's just a disaster, really. And the Prophet ﷺ predicted this situation is going to happen.
I think they've really taken away all holiness and sanctity from this, from what they portray as the Kaaba, which makes me believe this is obviously not the Kaaba. Let's do it.
Okay, wow, man, that's incredible, and it is absolutely disgusting to. If a person believes that this is really the house of God here, my God, well, if you really believe that that's the house of God, well, my God, go and speak to the Saudi government, go and speak to these disgusting scholars and tell them you basically made the city of God, the sanctuary of God, into a business place. You made it the Las Vegas of the Middle East. What are you doing? If you really don't believe us, but you believe in your Islam and you believe that this is really the Kaaba of Allah, I mean, what is it that your people are doing? All of that Hajj money is going to where? It's going to like these big fancy, amazing hotels, which goes to who? It goes to the House of Saudi. It goes to these rich rich people who do pilgrimage for leisure rather than for really doing a good deed of performing Hajj once in their lifetime. And there are even TikTok videos and YouTube videos of people making fun of the poor. Why? Because they go and they start begging at the curtains of the Kaaba, screaming out, fulus, 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 which means money, 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 money. So poor people are going to the Kaaba, as you said, they're literally going to the Kaaba begging the people, begging God for money, as you pointed out.
Before you get to the Kaaba, pay us first.
And it's disgusting because these people are extremely rich. So they shouldn't even be, these Muslims, so-called Muslims in this area shouldn't even be needing to go there and beg for money.
At all.
What should be happening is the custodians of the holies should be looking after the nations.
Exactly. And one thing that I also want to point out too is, did you know that the Bible actually points out the location of the Kaaba? It says, and the Muslims use this a lot. It's in the book of Deuteronomy where Moses says, about the full-on appearance of God in Mount Paran. And this is just a big smack to the face. Well, guess where Mount Paran is according to the Christians and the Jews? Mount Paran is actually in the vicinity of present-day Jordan, right where the city of Petra is, and that is why the Christians, when they look at Mecca, they're like, that's not where the region of Mount Paran is.
That's right.
Anyway, that's a nice big piece of evidence I wanted to show you guys, and a big cliffhanger for what is to come concerning all the other stuff that we will be talking about here on this channel. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.